Well, I'm the youngest of three, so I don't know what it's like to be an older sibling. But my wife is the oldest.
Okay.
Of two, so she knows. And so we have this kind of like, I don't know, me and my daughter are going to be best friends forever, so.
I was going to say, is she a daddy's girl?
Oh, yes. There's a video I put on Instagram, just a compilation of me walking in rooms and her just like smiling.
That's so cute.
It's adorable.
I'm sure your heart melts too, every time.
Every single time. Anyway, sorry, I want to hold this up.
No, this is all pre-show chat talk.
Oh, yeah, that's right. No warm-up for Zach.
There's no warm-up, no. No warm-up for anybody. We just start talking and,
jump right in.
In this episode of Sips and Clips, we hang out with the amazing Ryan Chan, a familiar face in the Robert Zemeckis world, who contributed to the iconic Polar Express and climbed his way up to editor. He shares his beginnings from sneaking onto the Universal Studios lot just by wearing a suit and being part of the early days of motion capture. Ryan's impressive resume includes titles like Pleasantville, A Christmas Carol, Flight, Welcome to Marwen, and my personal favorite, Here. We discuss the challenges of working away from kids and the interesting journey of having an agent. Welcome to our episode of Sips and Clips. My name is Leanne McFalls, and we've got the wonderful
Zach Griffin as co-host. Fill in.
Zach Griffin is filling in because Michael is again absent. Although I do know for a fact this weekend is Haruka's wedding. So Zach is here as a co-host, and we've got a wonderful editor friend of mine, Ryan Chan. He is our guest today. He was one of the editors on Here. He came in for a few months, and he also had worked with Allison Chang, and he's going to talk to us about editing and all of that. But Ryan was very kind and brought us all boba tea for today. Thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome. I'm surprised that none of your other guests have had the forethought to bribe their host before. So I'm glad to be the first.
I'm glad to be receiving also on Mike my first boba tea.
Oh, it is your
Nice.
first boba tea.
Yep. I don't even remember what I ordered, actually. I think
It was an Earl Grey tea.
Thank you. I was going to say it has an Earl Grey-y thing going on. So I'll start with my what I'm sipping on is my Earl Grey boba tea, courtesy of Ryan Chan. Thank you, Greg.
And I hope that you're not going to be embarrassed, but I had a feeling that he did not drink it before as he tried to take off the plastic lid and then went to put the straw in with the pointy side facing up. And I told him that he had to turn it. I was watching him
I needed to be educated. It's okay. I have no shame.
I was watching him like discover how to drink and how to prep boba tea in real time, people. And it was
sad because we have these big boxes we record with the mics that house the mics now. And I thought I have plenty of cover from my area. Nobody's going to see me trying to futz with this thing.
Meanwhile, I am sitting across
Leanne
from Zach and can see completely behind his box where the tea is.
Listen.
Yeah, Leanne could hear the sound of the plastic. It wasn't even visual. She just could sense.
I could sense it.
Matt Murdock'd out to
Exactly.
echolocate what I was doing. That's great. And what kind do y'all have? What are y'all sipping on?
I'm having a classic milk tea with boba. Yeah, the old standby.
Just a classic boba tea. Is that your favorite kind of boba tea? You just like the classic, or do you like doing different? Do you like spicing it up a little bit, Ryan?
I like to try
spicing
different things. I like to try different things, but this is probably the one I go to the most.
Okay. I am drinking a vanilla chai milk boba tea. It is delicious. I'm hoping, you know what, I'll ask you, is this going to keep me up tonight?
I have no idea. We'll find out.
I guess we'll find
when
out.
we're in hour 12 of the record, we'll know.
Okay, yeah. It'll be like 3 a.m. and I'll text you and I'll be like, Ryan, why did you do this to me?
Leanne just starts rapid firing questions. We'll know.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be asked, and I've been listening to a bunch of your episodes and
Oh, great.
really enjoying the show and just hearing different viewpoints of the different post and non-post guests that you've had. I mean, super, like, I think the last one that you did, I think, was the the guy who had like 1,000 credits.
Oh, yeah, Alan
it's
Maxon.
a hard one to follow, but I will see what I can do. I've not played a worm on stage. So.
Though you have not played a worm, you have worked a lot with the great Bob Zemeckis.
I have.
For
I've been
many,
very fortunate.
years.
I've been very fortunate.
Why don't we start at the beginning? Why don't you tell us about how you got interested and involved in the industry?
Mm-hmm.
And then why don't you tell us how you got involved with Bob, I guess? Because you were editing with him for how many years?
Between additional editing and editing, the actual, so those roles, probably 5 years-ish.
Okay.
But then prior to that, a number of years.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, I loved film when I was a kid. I was a child of the 80s. And so Spielberg, Lucas, and Zemeckis were my the three directors that I really loved. And I saw Back to the Future 8 times in the theater.
Oh my gosh.
I actually saw Back to the Future on October 26, 1985, which is the day it takes place.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
That's not why I went to go see it that day, but it was my cousin's birthday, so that's why I remember the date. But so I was interested in film from an early age. I loved reading Starlog magazine and Cinefex.
Was Back to the Future then your favorite film at the time?
At the time, it definitely was. I mean, I was really into Star Wars when I was growing up, so of course Star Wars was a big milestone for me.
Star Wars Day.
And it's Star Wars Day.
May the Fourth be with you.
But Back to the Future, I just kept wanting to see it. And it was at a time when that movie was in a theater in my town for a year.
Oh, wow.
It would bounce around from the big theater to the medium theater, and then it finally ended up at the dollar theater. But it was there long enough that I could see it that many times.
Was it consistently there, or was it there then
it
came
was
back?
Consistently there. That movie
God.
was consistently there. I wouldn't say every movie stayed in the theater for that long, but that movie or other big tentpole movies would stay in at some theater in town for a good long while.
When you hear stories about Star Wars like that, where it became just a thing to do that year, I'd say, you just want to go see Star Wars again? Yeah, let's go see Star Wars.
Yeah, so I loved those big sci-fi big tentpole movies. I was trying to think back where the bug bit me. I mean, I definitely love movies. I never thought I could make movies. I never thought that was a thing that I would be able to do. I knew there was this long list of people at the end that worked on this movie somehow, but I never thought I would be one of them. But I remember I was trying to think back where the power of editing became apparent to me. I had a best friend in elementary school. He had a dual deck tape recorder. He said, "Hey, talk into this microphone." And so he just started asking me all these questions. And he said, "What do you think of Star Wars?" And I said, "Oh, it's great. I really love it. The story is great and great adventure and whatever." And then he said, "What do you think about Care Bears?" And I was like, "Well, it's kind of kiddie. It's not really for me." And so he asked me all these questions. And then he put on headphones and he played around with the tape deck for a while. And then he played it back and it said, "Hey, what do you think about Care Bears?" And I went, "Well, it's great adventure and it's it's the way, it's great spectacle and whatever. And what do you think about Star Wars?" "Oh, it's kind of kiddie. I don't really." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing."
and blackmail.
Yeah, seriously.
So I remember going home and asking my parents for a dual deck tape recorder so that I could play around with it. So that was a big Christmas gift that year for me. But yeah, so I loved film all the way since I was a kid, and I didn't go to film school. I wished that I could go to film school. I knew my parents would never, ever let me go to film school.
Where are you from?
I'm from Fresno in the Central Valley.
Okay.
California. Yeah, so film school felt like a million miles away. So I went to school for graphic design, and my middle brother studied computer science, and my oldest brother went to go work for a genetics company. So my path was, film was not even on the radar. But then my middle brother, when he graduated from college, he told my parents, "Oh, I'm going to start at this new company that's starting up called DreamWorks. And I'm going to go work in the software division of this company because, it's a big computer animation studio." And so all of a sudden my parents were like, "Oh, wow, this movie thing is you can actually it's a real job." And so I basically threw all my stuff in my car and just headed to LA. And I was like, I'm going to somehow get into the film industry.
Your brother had to be the guinea pig.
My brother, he opened that door and I saw the sliver and I ran with it.
But you said you wanted to go to film school. So obviously at that point, in college, you were definitely this is what I want to do.
It's what it's what I would have chosen, but it was it was like someone saying, "Wow, being an astronaut looks really cool. I would love to be an astronaut." But it's I don't even know how you do that. It's just something someone else does. And so that's what film felt like for me. It wasn't like I had these film school applications and had to throw them in. It wouldn't even get that far. I just thought, wow, I wonder who makes movies. Okay, I'm doing something else. It just never seemed like a real thing that was attainable for me.
There is something about getting to LA and seeing it as an industry, though.
Yeah.
I think that even I come to LA by way of New York, and New York has film, but it doesn't feel like an industry until you're driving down the street and it's warehouse after warehouse of props, lighting,
It's more tucked away in New York.
Exactly.
Like it's in high rises. And
so when you got here, did you stay with your brother? Did you crash with him for a little while?
I did. I stayed with my brother. So I really wanted to work for Robert Zemeckis. And so I printed a resume and a cover letter, and I snuck onto the Universal lot.
Oh my God.
To try
Do you have a Spielberg story?
No. Oh. I wish I did. I knew which bungalow he was in. Like I had gathered the intel to at least know like what number bungalow he was in. And I was like, I'm going to march this resume over and hand them over this resume to them.
And this was right when you came to LA?
This was one of the first things I did when I came. Actually, I had not moved to LA at that point. I came down for an interview for something else, and I was like, I'm in a suit. I can probably just walk right onto the lot because I'm in a suit and no one's going to bat an eye. And it worked. I had my little portfolio, and I just walked through the gate, and I didn't look at the guard or anything. I just walked through. And I walked right onto the lot, right on the back lot.
Someone has to like check these security guards. They just let anybody walk on the lot if they got a suit.
Yeah. And so I couldn't find his bungalow. Like years later, when I worked for him, I found out where his bungalow was. It's way in the back. Like I would have had to walk like a half a mile and like somehow stumbled upon it. So I didn't end up finding his office, but I found like the little newsstand or whatever in the commissary area. And I found these two newspapers. One was called Drama Log and one was called Backstage West. And they were newspapers for actors, specifically to find work for actors. But in the back, they each had a classified section. And it was like looking for crew. And it was like, we need a gaffer for this. We need a DP for this.
What year is this?
This is 1998. So I leafed through these, standing there in my suit with my Robert Zemeckis resume. I leafed through these newspapers and saw that they need crew in the back. And so I went home and I faxed resumes to all these directors and whatever that needed PAs on or production managers on anything. And what I realized is a lot of these, so a lot of the people that are making student films, when they're looking for crew, the people that work on them that aren't other students are people who are trying to make the next jump to something. So a gaffer might work as a DP on a student film, or an assistant editor might work as an editor on a student film, that kind of thing. So these two student films wrote back and were interested in having me be a PA. And so I worked on them, and they happened to be back to back, and it was the same DP and gaffer on both of them.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to know them really well. And then by the end of the second week, during the course of the shoot, I found out the gaffer was an assistant editor during the week, and on the weekends she would go be a gaffer on because she was trying to become a DP.
Okay.
And so the movie she was working on was called Pleasantville. At the end of the second week, I said to her, if you guys are ever looking for someone on Pleasantville, I'd love to come work, kind of offhandedly. And she said, well, let me talk to someone. And so it just so happened their PA just got bumped up to apprentice like the week or two after I worked on these student films. And she was like, why don't you come in for an interview? And so I did it, and I got the job.
You were a PA on Pleasantville.
I was a PA on Pleasantville.
Wow. I just can't get over the fact that you just walked on to the Universal lot.
I mean, you do have to take into consideration this is pre 9/11, like 9/11, after 9/11. I don't think you could do this. Like even just working in the industry, like everything changed after 9/11, just security and.
I mean, you definitely could not do that now.
No, you couldn't do that,
but
for sure.
I just I
want
don't
you to try, though.
It's like the idea of just being like, I'm in a suit. I'm just going to walk on the lot. What are they going to do? With
enough confidence, you just...
Yeah.
Because at the time, you could walk freely back and forth into the theme park. Like, it was super easy because they wanted to keep guests out of the studio. They didn't really care if studio people went into the theme park. So you could go ride rides at lunch. You just wave to someone and say, oh, I'm grabbing lunch up at City Walk. And they didn't care.
What a time.
Yeah, no, it's so different.
It's when you first went onto the lot, you told us like you found the newspapers, the classifieds. But what was it like? Was it your first time on a lot? Like what was your experience of it?
It was my first time on, I had been to the Universal studio tour hundreds of times before that. So I had been as a tourist, but it was my first time seeing the tram drive by.
I know my way around this. I can.
Yeah, it was super cool just to be back there and like, I totally felt like I was going to get caught the whole time.
So you got this PA job on Pleasantville.
So I got the PA job in Pleasantville.
Yeah, what happened
and it
after
was
that?
pretty late in the show. Like they were already in the final mix or close to it.
Oh, okay.
But it was a really great first show for me to do. But they started talking about wanting to do a music video in conjunction with the movie. And they were figuring out who they were going to do it with. And they chose Fiona Apple to do a song for the end credits. Fiona Apple at the time was dating Paul Thomas Anderson.
Ah.
So they said, why don't we see if Paul Thomas Anderson will direct this video?
Yeah.
So he agreed to do it. And I totally should not have done this. But I went to the producers and I said, I would love to work on the set of that music video if that's okay, which is a weird thing to ask, like, because I have a day job. And they were like, okay. And so,
Wow.
So I got to work for a week on this Fiona Apple shoot with Paul Thomas Anderson. And so imagine, like, for the people in LA, like, I was living in Studio City. The shoot was at Universal. I would get up at 5 a.m. I would get to set. I was in charge of the walkies. And I would get home at 10 or 11 at night. If you imagine how far that is, it's maybe a mile or two.
Yeah.
And I finished the shoot and like I finished the whole thing and it was really cool to do. But I was like, what if we were shooting in Lancaster today? Or what if we were shooting in, I don't know, Alhambra or something? What if like we were a mile away from home and like I'm getting like 7 hours of sleep maybe if I jump right in bed.
Were you doing the music video along with Pleasantville?
No, I basically took a week off.
Oh, okay.
Went to go do the shoot and then I went back to my day job. So I was like, production's not for me. I cannot do production. It's too crazy.
Yeah.
And it was super fun, but I was like, there's no way I can do that. And
what was it like working with Paul Thomas Anderson? Did you have any?
He smoked like a chimney.
Okay.
Like there were no smoking signs all over the stage. And I was supposed to go tell him not to smoke whenever, but he didn't care. He was like, okay, whatever. Paul Thomas Anderson has his signature things, like his big oneers or his big whatever. Like, this was a very conceptual shoot, and it was very like, if you go see it, the song is called Across the Universe. It's a Beatles cover. It had a motion control camera because so there's a scene in Pleasantville where this diner gets wrecked by all these citizens of the town. And so they wanted to recreate the diner, recreate the moment where the characters are like destroying this diner, and they're going to all be in slow-mo, but she's going to be at regular speed. So she's just idyllically singing in this really calm pose while all this destruction is happening around her. I think she's in color and they're all in black and white. So they had this motion control camera where like it would duplicate the exact camera move, but at double speed for her, but half speed for them. And so I don't know if it was indicative of or representative of a regular Paul Thomas Anderson shoot. It was very pre-planned. It was 6 specific shots that they had to get.
Wow.
So it was neat to see him direct, but it wasn't like getting to see him direct performance or direct camera or anything. It was all very sterile in that way. But it was really great. It was a really great, fun set to witness. And it was shot on, I can't remember the stage number, but it was the stage where they shot the T-Rex paddock in the first Jurassic Park.
Oh,
so it was just neat to like be, in a historic place and just to be there on set and see the trams drive by and be like, oh, that used to be me. Like now I'm here with a walkie-talkie. So that was really neat. But then I was like, okay, I'm done with that. I never want to do that again.
You said you were on that for a week?
It was a week-ish, maybe a week and a half.
Okay.
So Pleasantville was a really great first project for me to do because it had a lot of assistant editors on it. I didn't work with all of them because I came on late in the game, but I knew I had, through various channels or the assistants I did work with, I got to meet a lot of them. So I had this instant network from working on that one movie. And so for probably the next 5 or 6 projects, I would just bounce from one, working with one of those assistants to another one of the assistants, and then back to one of the other ones. And so it was really a great, instant network that appeared, which was,
Were you working with them as a PA?
I was working with them as a PA.
Okay.
So I worked for a few shows as a PA, and then I got a call one day. I remember I was in a projection booth. I think I was on the Raleigh lot or something, and the VFX producer was calling me, and she said, we're working on this new project. It's a museum piece. We're building this museum in Seattle called Experience Music Project. It's a giant music museum. Big portion of it is dedicated to Jimi Hendrix because Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, has a huge Jimi Hendrix collection of just guitars and whatever. And he's like, might as well make a museum out of it. And so they said, okay, here's the deal. The museum is going to cost $300 million to make. And to him, that's like buying a cup of coffee.
Jeez.
So we basically have an unlimited budget.
Oh my God.
She said, but we're non-union because they just didn't feel like doing the paperwork to become union or whatever the reason was. Are you interested in, being a PA on the show? And I was already working as a PA on a feature. And I said, I'll do whatever you want. I will pick up dailies for you. I'll do runs. I will pick up your dry cleaning. I'll walk your dog. But my paycheck has to say assistant editor on it.
Wow.
And she said, okay.
I was going to ask. Yeah.
So that I was like, the instant she said it was non-union, I was like, this is how I'm going to get my days.
Yeah.
Because I was super fortunate to have Pleasantville be my first show because it was a union show and I got to meet all these union editors and assistants. But once you're in that world, it's really hard to find non-union work because all your friends, all your contacts work in the union world.
Yeah.
So they can't, even if they would love to recommend you for whatever,
they can't.
They don't have access to the non-union world. So when she said, oh, it's non-union, I was like, okay, I'll do whatever. Just put assistant editor on my paycheck.
Wow.
And so she's like, okay. So I worked a summer. It was a really fun job. That was actually at Universal.
So were you, once you got on that job, were you doing really more PA stuff?
Yeah, I was the PA for a while.
Okay.
I got bumped up to like be an assistant editor like halfway through maybe, but like for sure I would not have gotten 100 days if my paycheck reflected what I was doing on the show.
Yeah. That's crazy. Oh, I've never heard of a story like that before.
Yeah, it was a fun loophole that I found. So I did that show and then just bounced around again from assistant to assistant from Pleasantville, and then I worked on a movie called Eight-Legged Freaks. And on a normal movie, you have a production accountant during shooting, and then when you start post, because you now go down from 300 people down to maybe 10, they hand the file off to some studio post accountant who will then handle your show for the rest of the show. But the production accountant from Eight-Legged Freaks, he stayed on for all of post. And so he was basically this one guy sitting at the end of the hall while we were all making editing the movie. He just had his lone office at the end of the hall. And so I befriended him and we would have lunch together and we'd do things outside of work. And then when he finished, he started another show and he said, oh, I'm starting on this movie called The Polar Express with Robert Zemeckis. And I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And like, of course, I'm like, what? Okay, so.
Inside you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
So.
Oh, that's cool. It's a nice little movie you're doing.
So of course, that was not my intention when I befriended this accountant, but it paid off because he was now going on to this giant movie with a director that I, had dreamed of working for. So and so he said, the editors on this movie are not Zemeckis' normal editor. Like he's kind of retiring. So they bumped his 2 assistants up. So they don't have assistant editors yet. So if you want to give me your resume, I'd be happy to hand it off. So I gave my resume. I did an interview. I didn't get the job. I was still pretty inexperienced. And
because would this have been your first assistant editor job? Or like official?
On Eight-Legged Freaks, I think I might have started as an apprentice. No, I think I was assistant. But I was a film assistant, and I kind of learned some Avid stuff during the course of the show. But I hadn't done like a full show as an Avid assistant yet. So, but a few months later, they called me back. They said, we'd love to interview you again. And so I drove up to Santa Barbara. The cutting room was in the city called Carpinteria, which is just south of Santa Barbara. And so I had the interview. It went really well. And they told me all about the show. And it was like, oh my gosh, I'm in Robert Zemeckis' like cutting room. This is incredible.
You're like, I can't even answer your questions right now. I'm just too...
I was just like, staring and drooling.
Yeah.
And just stealing stuff and stuffing it in my pockets.
Yeah.
And they were
this is his used tissue. Oh my God.
And so... So I remember they said, okay, great. Thanks for coming up. You're right at the top of the list. We'll be in touch. I remember I was like, I don't know when I'm going to be back in Santa Barbara or near here. So I'm going to go have lunch in Santa Barbara before I head back. And then I started driving home and I got a call on the drive home.
Oh my God.
From one of the editors, Jeremiah. And he said, we'd love to have you join the crew if you're interested. And I was like, sure, I'd love to. That sounds great. And he said, okay, go down to Culver Studios in Culver City, and that's where you'll sign your paperwork. So just do that sometime in the next 3 days or whatever, and you can start on Monday. I was like, okay, great. And I hung up and I drove straight to Culver Studios.
I would too.
I was like, I'm putting a pen to paper on this immediately before they have a chance to change their mind.
Yeah.
So I drove straight there. I probably like screeched into the parking lot, and then I signed my deal and started a few days later.
I feel like if you finally get a job, it's like immediately, even like nowadays, immediately if there's paperwork that comes in, I'm like, I'm signing it right now. I'm sending it back to you within the next 10 minutes because like I need this to be for sure certain.
For sure.
Don't question, don't doubt. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to give it to you as soon as possible so that you can do whatever you need to do. So I would have totally done the same thing. Like
they called you back for a reason though. So
I still do the thing where like, you know, you don't pick up a phone call on the first ring. You let it, you know, or like
very like Seinfeld, like wait till the third.
Or if like you get an email, like I won't write back right away. But this kind of thing where it's like sign, put your name to a contract. I'm like, I will send it back immediately because I don't want me to be the reason anything got held up.
Exactly.
Like, you do your thing. Like if you change your mind, fine. But I've done everything I possibly can.
And you're also driving back from Santa Barbara, so you still have some time. So you're not like, I've been waiting outside Culver Studios to sign the paperwork.
I see the light still on in your office.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm really curious. So this was Bob Zemeckis' first like computer animated motion capture. So in a way, this was new for everyone on board.
This was new for everyone on board, which was the perfect show for me to start on.
Yeah.
Because we were making up terminology. We were all scratching our heads together. We were like, what do we call this? Or what do we do here? And like, we really, other movies had made similar things, or I think Final Fantasy had done something, some mocap, but no facial mocap. So there was, the waters had been tested a little bit. So there's probably people we could have talked to, but a lot of it was just like, what do we do that? What do we call this? Like, let's bring some people up to Santa Barbara to do this. And so the playing field was really leveled. Even like up to the director, everyone was just like, okay, we just got to roll up our sleeves and do this. And so that was a fantastic first movie, because if I had started on Castaway or whatever, they would have had their system down. They would have known exactly what they were doing. They would have shoved me out of the way and be like, okay, get out of the way, kid. Like, this is how we do it. But this was like, everyone was learning. So it was really, really a great way to start. I couldn't have chosen a better first movie to do.
And how long were you on that for?
So when Jeremiah called me and said, hey, we'd like to have you come interview again, I hadn't worked for probably 2 or 3 months. And on the same day, I also got a call to do The Day After Tomorrow, the Rennie Harlan movie.
Oh, whoa.
The Rennie Harlan thing was 6 months. The Polar Express was 3 months. The Day After Tomorrow was non-union.
Day After Tomorrow was non-union?
It was like a VFX editor position, so I don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a vendor thing or what it was. But basically, like I had these 2 options all of a sudden when I had nothing. But I was like, it's Robert Zemeckis. Like, how can I?
Yeah, of course.
So I knew it was a 3-month gig. Like, it was like June, I think, of 2003. And I started, and I was determined to just make it impossible for them to let me go after 3 months.
Yeah.
So I think Steve Martin has a quote where he says, be so good they can't ignore you. And so that was my plan. It was like, I'll come in early, I'll stay late, I'll learn everything I can possibly learn. Like, because I would assume there probably was no one in that cutting room that knew how to do everything because of the mocap stuff. And so I was like, I'm going to learn all of it. I'm going to learn all the terminology. I'm going to learn what best practice is for this. And so I really ingratiated myself in the cutting room and just lived there basically. And so at the end of the 3 months, I wanted to find out what was going on, because no one was saying like, the clock is ticking, you're done in September.
Yeah.
And so I asked like, can I plan a trip in September? Like, is that okay? And they were like, and the producer was like, why would you plan a trip in September? You're on for the rest of the show. And I was like, okay. So I basically turned that 3 months into 17 years. I stayed from June of 2003 till the end of 2020.
And how does it work in his company? It's sort of like there's work year round for y'all to do, or is it sort of like we're going to take a 3-month kind of break and come back? So
the other great thing about starting when I did is that these motion capture movies they require so many people on the VFX side, and because they're so specialized, they don't want to hire all those people and then fire them and then a couple of years later start another movie and then have to rehire them all. So they wanted to create this pipeline where they were constantly making these movies. And so motion capture is broken down into different phases. And so there's like what's called like solving and tracking, which is like locating all the dots on the characters' faces and bodies and assigning them to a specific dot on the body and the face on the 3D rig. And then there's like layout where you like where you go in and place virtual cameras in, and then there's animation. And so there's this very specific process, and they didn't want to get rid of all the solvers and trackers and have to rehire them in. So they wanted once a year to start a new movie.
Wow.
And like one director couldn't, I mean, I guess there are directors who could do that, but Zemeckis didn't want to do that. So his plan was make Polar Express. A year later, we start Monster House, which is another director, but he produces. Then a year later, we start another Zemeckis movie. And so that was kind of the leapfrog approach we took. So I started 2003 on the Polar Express. Then as soon as I wrapped the Polar Express, I jumped on to the middle of Monster House, worked with them for about a year. And then Bob was ready to do Beowulf. So I jumped back onto Beowulf. And so it was such a great time to be working for, to land in that crew.
Yeah.
Because there was always a project to do. And because it all shot in LA, and then getting to work for Robert Zemeckis. And so I did Polar Express, then Monster House, Beowulf, A Christmas Carol. So by now I've done 4 or 5 of these movies.
And were you an assistant on all of these ones?
So I was an assistant on Polar and Monster House. Then on Beowulf, I got bumped up to first in the middle of the show. And then Christmas Carol, I stayed as the first. So now I knew mocap backwards and forwards, and I knew how to set up, the cutting room, but also how to set up the layout department, which is Zemeckis shoots all his cameras. And again, that's another part of the process that was amazing, which was in motion capture on set, you're just recording dots. You're recording all this data of people moving around, and you're getting the sound, but you're not recording any specific camera moves. You're just getting all the data. Like if you're like if you play a video game where you can do a replay later, you can now move the camera wherever you want, and the action stays exactly the same. So Zemeckis loved this because instead of being on set and losing your light because the day went long, or let's just say you get this great, perfect Tom Hanks performance, but the camera guy goes, there was a hair in the gate, I'm sorry, or a shadow cast over, and so you take away all the technical stuff. You're just gathering the performances. And then you go into the computer later. Now the performance is frozen in time. You can get the actor to do it 1,000 times in a row exactly the same because it's all just in the computer. So the part that I never get to see in editorial is where he's composing his shots. And so he would say, okay, put a 29 millimeter on this one, raise Tom Hanks up on an Apple box. And it's all virtual. It's a guy on a computer, with a mouse clicking, to move all. Okay, now dress the Christmas tree in the background. Okay, let's turn the Christmas tree 30 degrees because I want to see that one bulb on here. Wow. And so to see him, to get to watch this process that probably even on set you don't even normally get to see. And so, getting to hear him direct, choose his lenses and to shoot something and then to redo the shot because he's like, no, it would be better with a 35. Let's do a 35. You're right. And to get him to see that process in motion capture is something you would never, ever get to see in a real set.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
So, oh my God.
When we talk about that with editorial too, if you're working with a director you admire, in post, you just get so much more time in their presence. You know what I mean? Getting to watch these masters work as opposed to being on set, which I have similar stories to yours. Just set is not for me, but you're not even in close proximity to them necessarily.
So my job for a lot of it was to take notes with the editor. So I would sit in sessions with Robert Zemeckis and Jeremiah O'Driscoll, and Jeremiah would make a cut, and he'd say, "Oh no, let's do the version that I shot with the 35." Okay, they try it out, and then they would say, "Wow, this would be great as instead of a cut, let's do a whip pan. Instead of doing a cutting from Zach to Leanne, let's do a whip pan." Okay. And so we walk out to the bullpen. The layout guys are sitting there with the files. We've already instructed them to open up this one file. And then he goes in and he has a physical camera. He can do the whip pan, a rough version of it. And then the guys clean it up. And maybe, half an hour later, we have it in the cut, the exact shot we need.
My God.
And it's so easy. Zemeckis has this camera that he can move and you can change the scale of it. So you can do a really giant vista, or you can do a really minute scale. So you can do a really tiny camera move. So this generates, if you can imagine, generates so many dailies because on a whim, he can create a new shot. So Jeremiah would open the bin and he'd go, and Bob would go, yesterday, no, maybe it was a week ago, I shot it was a 31 maybe, and we started on this and did this. And Jeremiah has no way to find this one specific shot because there's probably 40 clips in the bin already. And he's scrolling through, and Bob can be a little impatient sometimes. And he'll go, I'll just shoot it again. And like he'll just walk out to the bullpen and do another version of it, like essentially the same thing. But he's like, I can't wait for you to find this in the bin.
Oh my God.
So anyway,
it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a total double-edged.
Yeah.
It seems like you could just tweak and tweak and tweak forever.
You could tweak, Totally. Yeah, I mean, Bob would always say, like, the great thing about this is you can do anything you want. The bad thing is you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
But as long as you can harness that and not go crazy, I think it can be really powerful. So because I had done 5 of these movies in a row, I was made a producer on the next Zemeckis movie that he produced.
Oh, cool.
So,
I didn't know that.
Cool. Yeah, so the movie called Mars Needs Moms was the one we did after Christmas Carol. And so I was a producer on that, which was really awesome because that's when our daughter was born. Oh. And so I had I could leave work at a reasonable hour.
Yeah.
And then we picked back up with another Zemeckis movie like a year later.
Very cool.
Wow. So then when did you make the jump to editor?
I made the jump to editor in 2017. We were in Vancouver shooting a movie. It was untitled at the time, but it ended up being called Welcome to Marwen.
Which I love. I told Jesse this. I was like, I really love that movie. Oh, wow. And I know it got a lot of not so great reviews, but my dad and I saw it and we both were like, this is a great movie. And then we were shocked when all the reviews came out and they were like, this movie's not great. And I was like, oh, I genuinely liked that movie.
Thank you.
That's cool. It's also cool to work with someone like Bob just because not only do you admire him as a director, as a storyteller, but he's at the forefront of so much new technology and always has been. So it's cool to sort of be like, I'm learning as they're learning, but also like we're doing stuff in Hollywood that no one else is really doing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, you're
really
there
fun.
for it. You're there for when that is all getting discovered. That's like crazy.
Yeah, so we were in Vancouver shooting this movie. Zemeckis movies tend to have a smaller budget than maybe you would expect for that scope of movie. And so this movie was no exception. And so VFX was demanding turnovers from the cutting room pretty early on. And so it became clear that we might need 2 editors just to keep up with the VFX turnover schedule. So I had cut previs for a number of the sequences prior to the shoot. And so the producer, Steve Starkey, said to Bob, he said, why don't we just have Ryan cut the scenes that he cut previs for, like in the actual movie? And Bob was fine with it. So I jumped in and it was the coolest thing ever just to get that opportunity and to sit with Robert Zemeckis and to get notes from him. And I learned so much just being in the back of the room. What was your question? It was, when did I first start cutting with Bob?
Yeah, like what that jump was.
So let me rewind just a little bit. So prior to Welcome to Marwen, actually a couple of movies prior to it, we were working on a movie called Flight with Denzel Washington.
Yep, and that upside down plane sequence. My God.
So Arthur Schmidt had been Bob's editor, starting with Back to the Future, all the way through Castaway and What Lies Beneath. And then, as I said, his assistants got the bump for Polar Express. So we had done all these mocap movies. Then Bob was going to make his big return to live action. And so Paramount, I don't know how exactly this worked, but I think they might have wanted to bring an editor that had not been a mocap specialist on to do Flight. And Jeremiah had done mostly all mocap movies as an editor, even though he had, 10 years of experience as an editor. A lot of it was in mocap. So I think they asked if they could bring Artie Schmidt on to do some of the movie. So Arthur Schmidt was brought on for 3 sequences. And Jeremiah was always very deferential to Artie. Artie was on a pedestal to him. And I mean, Artie was such an amazing editor. It's easy to see why. So when Artie was about to show up, like the day or 2 prior, Jeremiah said, okay, here's how Artie likes his folders. I'm going to give Artie my room so he can work in there. It's been a while since he's cut, so he's probably going to have you be his hands. He's going to tell you what to do, and he's just going to tell you, he's going to walk you through what he wants. And I said, great, no problem. And so Artie showed up.
And why wasn't Jeremiah, was that just because he had been on a lot of mocap stuff? Is that why he wasn't just on as like an assistant or something?
Oh, Jeremiah was the main editor.
On Flight?
Yeah. So Jeremiah was the main editor.
Okay.
But Artie was going to come in to cut a few sequences.
Oh, I see.
And so it was just like, I think it made the...
So there was sort of like co-editing.
Yeah, I think the studio felt better if like someone of Artie's stature would come in.
I see.
Just as a guardrail. Jeremiah did great. And like, of course, the movie, his parts of the movie were fantastic. So they had nothing to worry about. So it was time for Artie to come in. It was right after shooting. So Bob had left to go to Italy or something for a couple of weeks. And so it was like, okay, Artie's going to come in during these 2 weeks while Bob is gone, get his sequences up to date and up to speed. And then we'll show Bob the rest of the whole movie when he gets back. So Artie shows up and I said, Artie, do you need any help with anything? Expecting him to say, oh yeah, I want you to be my hands during this period. And he's like, no, this is great. He said, I've been brushing up on lynda.com on my Avid skills. And so I think I'm fine. And I was like, okay, great. So here's your binders. Let me know. I'm in the next room.
Now, do you know about this time, how old he was?
I don't know. I mean, I could take a guess, but I honestly don't know. Probably in his 70s.
Okay. I'm expecting this like old man, like super nice, but being like, I was just brushing up for retirement.
No, but it was unexpected to have him say that he was brushing up on.
I just thought that was so, that's so funny.
And so I was like, okay, no problem. So, periodically he would come out and ask for an Avid question or whatever, but he did great and it was doing his thing. So Bob shows up after 2 weeks being in Italy. And he goes, okay, well, hey, Artie, it's good to see you. Jeremiah, good to see you. Like, what do you guys got to show me? And then they're like, oh, why don't we have Artie show you his scenes first? So, okay, great. And so I go in, Artie goes to the Avid, clicks on whatever his sequence is. Bob sits in his chair. And then Artie turns to me and he goes, Ryan, why don't you drive? And I was like, now you want me to drive the Avid? So then I was his hands, like during the sessions with Bob.
Yeah.
Like, he would say like, okay, make a cut there, do this, like, and then I would hear them talk about, why they wanted to make a change or why they wanted a different performance. And so I had gotten a lot of that with Jeremiah, watching him work in the same way with Bob, but then to see it with Artie was fantastic also, to get an experience like that and like kind of getting my first cutting experience with Bob.
Yeah.
So that was a really, it was unexpected, but it was a big thrill. And so, cut to 5 years later on Welcome to Marwen, I got the same opportunity. And it was really fun because when Bob is shooting, he's super focused on that. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, he would come in and then do cutting. So it was like super empty office. It was like Jeremiah and I, and then maybe one assistant or something. So it would just be like working in this super quiet room, working, in this super quiet office and like just rolling up our sleeves and just getting to work with Bob.
Wow. And he's Bob now. You went from walking onto the lot, hoping to work for Robert Zemeckis to now you go to work with Bob.
Yeah. It's me and Bob.
So I do want to jump ahead a little bit. Now you had been working with Bob since, what was it, 20? When did you stop working with Bob?
Stop working with Bob?
Yeah.
2020.
So is it difficult now for you, now since you've been working with the same team for all these years? Mm-hmm. Has it or was it difficult to then kind of branch out and try and find a job that's not with Bob? Like, what has that kind of process been like for you?
Yeah, it was really hard. I mean,
I do want to point out that you are working. So
I am working.
It's possible. It does happen. But I do want to know what that was like.
Can I tell you the story why I stopped working with Bob?
You can, yeah. Whatever you're comfortable with saying.
Yeah. So we did a movie called The Witches in 2019 and 2020. The movie ended, and it was a weird movie because it was during COVID. The second half of it was during COVID, but the movie seemed to go really well, and the mix went really well, and it was a weird release because it didn't get a theatrical release.
Was it strange to have it sort of taken and just put on a streaming service? Because that was the first kind of time that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really strange, and it was, so I had done Welcome to Marwen, and I got an additional editor credit on this, but this is like my first, I'm an editor. I'm one of the editors on this movie for The Witches. Yeah, I was really looking forward to going to a premiere, like as an editor, or being able to tell people to go see this thing, that's at your local theater or whatever. And there's something about the theatrical experience that,
of course,
I think we all want to be a part of. And so to not have that was, it was disappointing. But it got released. It's not like there are movies, other Warner Brothers movies that had never seen a release, which is a real bummer. So the fact that it got released is a blessing. So after the movie ended, having done so many movies back to back, I still would not expect to be on the next movie. Like I would always hope, and also because because of the 2 editor situation, like, maybe the next one only needed 1 editor. So I kind of was bracing myself for that I wouldn't be on the next one. And I hoped that I would, but you never know what happens. And so we knew Pinocchio was going to be the next movie, but I all of a sudden lost contact with the producer, and he just wasn't returning my calls, and he wasn't calling me, and I was getting more and more worried. And so I think I emailed him and I said, I'd love to talk to you. If you have good news, take your time. Get back to me whenever you want. If you have bad news, can you let me know now so that I can move on with my life? And I was really expecting it's just going to be Jeremiah cutting this movie. And so you need to find something else. And so it was a really hard time because this is mid-pandemic. This is pre-vaccine pandemic. This is
it's hard enough to not know whether you're going to work or not, and then throw the pandemic in there. And that's just a whole other thing you have to worry about.
So he wrote back to me and said, it's bad news. I remember that I immediately went through my address book and I was prepping emails to send to everyone I knew, looking for work. And then I got on a call and he said, so I'm sorry, you're not going to be on Pinocchio. And I said, okay. And I really expected him to say that it was going to be Jeremiah. And he said, and it's not going to be Jeremiah either. And I said, oh, really? Why is that? And he said, Disney wants a more diverse editor. And I said, I'm Asian, right? And he said, I know. He said, it sounds like what they want is a female minority editor. So it was a big gut punch. Ugh. And I didn't know what to do. I was totally lost. It was in the middle of the pandemic and all of a sudden not having the comfort of this crew that I'd worked with for so long. And so I just sent this email blast. I sent individual emails to everyone that I knew. And the funny thing was that I got an email or a call from a VFX editor that I know. And he said, there's a movie at Sony that I heard about. They don't want to hire a big name editor on it. And I thought, I'm not a big name editor. This is perfect. I might be perfect for this. So it was a movie at Sony. And so, I did all the recon to try to figure out what movie it was. I think he might have told me what movie it was, but I tried to figure out who do I know that
could
knows someone that knows someone that knows someone. And so I wrote to all those people, but I also knew the 2 directors. I had actually been introduced to them at Skywalker Sound when I was working on another movie. Cool. They were up there when we happened to be mixing. And so I was wait, I know Mac. Okay, Mac, I'll have Mac contact them. And so I pulled out all these names and then
I could just see Ryan in his room with the cordboard.
I know, totally.
And the red string, this person goes here and this person goes there. And okay, then if I contact them, then they know this person and I'll tell them to tell it. And just spending the entire night.
Very a beautiful mind. And so Derek had told me, Bob said he's really sorry that you're not going to, they can't bring you on to Pinocchio, but if you ever need a call or a recommendation, let me know and we'll make it happen. So I called Mac and I said, you're friends with Scott Beck and Brian Woods. Can I give their phone number to Robert Zemeckis so he can call them? And he was like, let me ask. And so he got their phone number. I got it to Bob Zemeckis. And then it was okay, now I just got to hope that he really meant it when he said he was going to make a call. Because I'm asking an Academy Award-winning director to make a direct phone call to someone for me. And so he called them. He called and recommended me for this movie. And it was this total roller coaster because I got an email saying, the head of physical production wants to talk to you tomorrow. I was in Fresno with my parents at the time. And I was okay, I got to drive home. And I get ready for this interview and it's a Zoom call, so I should wear a suit or, I just dressed nicely. I didn't have any nice clothes with me. And so I was working on my speech and taking my stand and why you should hire me speech. I got home and I got an email saying, your meeting with the head of physical production has been canceled. They hired another editor. And I was just oh my gosh. And it was just another gut punch.
Oh my God.
And I was can I at least talk? Can I at least make my case? You don't want to just have the meeting tomorrow? And no, we signed a deal with someone else. And I was
oh my God.
So it was this huge roller coaster, but a ton of people came to bat for me. A ton of people, I would not have gotten even that far. Probably if Bob hadn't called or, some other people that I had also asked to, for recommendations didn't write. So
it also goes to show you that even an Academy Award-winning director could put your name in, then you still might not get the job.
Yeah.
And
Like he didn't even get to bring his editors onto the project he was working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
So I kept pounding the pavement, and I ended up getting an interview with Peter Ramsey, who is a director who was one of the directors on the first Spider-Verse movie, and he was directing a new show called Lost Ollie for Netflix. So I had a really nice interview with him, and it just so happened that the DP from Welcome to Marwen was the DP on that show. And so he texted me like the morning of my interview, and he was like, "Hey, I saw your name on a list of interviewees. Like, good luck." So I think he put a good word in, and I ended up getting the show. And
nice.
Great.
And it worked out really well. It was like a 1.5 year long show, and so it was a great show to do during COVID, and it was just a really fun experience. I ended up winning an Emmy from that.
Wow.
Congrats.
Yeah, congrats. What was the show again?
It's called Lost Ollie.
Okay.
And so now you're in the Netflix family a little bit.
Yeah, so that was really nice to meet the Netflix people. And then the same DP was going on to another show when I finished Lost Ollie, another Netflix show, and he said, "You should interview for this. You'd be really good for it." And so that was a show called The Brother's Son. So I went and interviewed for that and got that one as well. So
That's where you got Allison, right?
that's where I got Allison. Yeah.
Yeah. Another friend of the pod.
Yeah, I heard her Kefir
Yes.
episode.
I do now drink it every day.
Do you really?
Yeah, she gave me some grains, and now I drink
my gosh.
Kefir every day. I don't know if it's working, but I'm like, it's not hurting, so might as well.
Yeah, Allison is fantastic. I mean, I was so lucky to find Allison. I know she told the story of how we connected, but the gist of it is she spoke 3 languages that I needed an assistant to speak for my episode,
insane.
for
When
my
she was
series. But
telling us that, I was like, what? How? Like, I just so happened to learn Korean as well. I was like, you just so happened to what?
yeah, so that was amazing, like to find her. But to give you context, this is in 2022 when like everyone was working. Mm-hmm. So it was hard enough to find an English speaking assistant editor, and the fact to find one that can speak, also Mandarin, Cantonese, and Korean was, I didn't think there was any chance I was going to be able to find someone. So to find someone, and Allison's fantastic. So so I got really lucky.
So it sounds like that even though, post Zemeckis, I mean, you have so many people batting for you that the transition might not have been as, I mean, it's still difficult in its own right.
Yeah.
But as far as like, oh, now I'm out of this world and I don't know anybody, it didn't seem like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it didn't seem like that was quite the case. Or
no, I mean, I had like been building up my Rolodex, so to speak, like for my entire career. I have like Roland Emmerich's assistants email from 2001 still, like, so I just keep everything because you never know. And so
exactly.
So when it was time to use it, I had a big stash of names, and luckily I had not burned any I don't think I had burned any bridges. So so I had a lot of people to reach out to, a lot of support and a lot of, and there was more work to go around at that time. So
yeah.
But I mean, I got super lucky. Like a lot of people I know didn't work a long time during COVID. And so I was lucky to find a show. I pinch myself all the time because, despite what happened with the Zemeckis crew, like I do feel like I've still been in a pretty good place.
And they did bring you back for Hero.
They did bring me back. And that was super unexpected. It was really nice to get that call. I mean, until I got that call, like I had 3 years of massive imposter syndrome. So I wondered every day, like, why didn't they go to bat for me? Why did this happen? Was that the real story? Was it really the female minority thing? Was it something else? Did I just not cut very well? Was I too slow? Like all of these things, like every day I would just wonder, like,
all the doubts.
What did I do? Was there that one day? Was it my Bob Zemeckis bingo card that I made? Was that not a good thing to do? So it was really nice to hear that they would hire me back.
Yeah.
And it was really weird to be back in that office again. I thought I would never be back in that office again. But for sure. I mean, like it was the biggest thrill to go back.
Yeah.
So not having any real traditional film school education, just sort of like practical on the job learning, climbing your way up. Is there some sort of well that you return to continue your film education or to continue building your skills or storytelling chops or things like that?
I try to watch, new media and old movies, and, I try to do that. It's hard with kids or with a kid. I do revisit movies. So when I started Polar Express, obviously I was a big fan of Zemeckis's, but to go back and watch his movies after having kind of gotten a peek in behind the curtain and seeing what his methodology is and what his mindset is. And there's a lot of the things I have in my head, when I'm cutting, are things I learned from Zemeckis, certain rules or certain, there was a moment in Welcome to Marwen where there's a character watching TV, and I remember putting the scene together, and it was on Steve Carell, and it goes in this big close-up, and then I cut to an over on the TV, and then it seemed fine. We were watching it, and Bob was like, "What's wrong with this?" He's like, "Oh, we shouldn't cut from a close-up to an over like that. We should go inside of him, so it's his POV, because we're so close to him. When we turn around, it feels like it should be a POV." And of course he was right, but that sticks with me. Every time I'm cutting, I'm never going to cut from a close-up to an over, because it really feels like you're now seeing him look at the back of some other guy's head. There's a lot of just little rules like that, or rules I learned from Jeremiah, or rules I learned from Artie Schmidt. And so seeing those things in practice, watching other projects made by other directors, or even watching older movies of Zemeckis's, just seeing times when those rules are broken and seeing whether they work or not is an education, but also just seeing really there's so much that he has such a large library of movies to be able to watch and apply those same rules in my head. Oh, that's why he did that. Okay, I see why he did that. Oh, that was really economical. That's a really smart thing to do. So I'm constantly watching things and trying to hone my skills in that way. But I also just feel like I am a better editor when I finish a project than I am when I started, every project. Because I just feel like doing it just makes me better. I feel like I just want to do a volume of work. I want to do more and more just because I'm honing my skills by doing it. There's this great Ira Glass quote that it basically says, you have good taste, and that's why the first stuff you do disappoints you, because you still have good taste, but your work is kind of crap at the beginning. The only way you level up your skills enough to where your work satisfies you is by just doing a bunch of it. There's nothing else you can do. You
Iterating.
Can't just wait. Yeah. You just have to get your skills up to that level, and then your work will satisfy you. And I'm at a place where my work satisfies me. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about all this, I kind of want to talk about the way you handle a cutting room. Mm-hmm. I know you've been working with Bob for a lot of years, but how do you, obviously you have a first assistant and you're delegating the task to them. Do you usually have your first assistant sit in with you and the director? How are you managing the broader culture of a cutting room?
Yeah, I think I love the editorial cutting room culture in general. I love that we kind of go to battle together. It's something it's definitely missing during work from home, because, I like to catch up with my assistant in the morning, and not just about work stuff, but also personal stuff, and just to know how they're doing. And I love just that we're in this bubble. If someone makes a mistake or if something is wrong, we don't point fingers. We put up this front for the producers and the directors, this unified front, to just say "Oh, I'm sorry about that. We'll get it fixed." Because I feel like the producers and directors, if they see little stumbles, if they feel the infighting, if they feel the drama between the soldiers, so to speak, they'll be less forgiving when a big mistake happens, or or even a medium-sized mistake. I feel like those little things, they, scuff the armor of the editorial crew. And so we deal with it internally. We just say, sorry, that happened. We're going to fix it. We'll get it done right away. That probably comes from working on the Zemeckis movies. It's always nope, we'll take care of it. We got it. And we're going to get that done. We'll get it fixed right away. I just feel to get our work done in the best manner possible and to be as efficient as possible, we need to stay one solid unit, just so that we have each other's backs. Everyone knows that if I accidentally screw something up, the team is going to fill in that gap and we're going to get it done. And I think that breeds confidence, and that breeds trust in each other. And so I think that's really important. Yeah, working with the directors and producers, it's all about preparation. Like I was saying, Robert Zemeckis can be, I don't know if it's impatient, but it's he just wants to keep things moving along. And so during VFX reviews or whatever, or even just a cutting review, if I'm okay, I'm going to show him these 3 scenes today. this one's in reel 2, these ones are in reel 3. I just type in the time code and hit play, and we just get through. It's like we're putting on a live show. It's like we have a presentation to give. And if we get through this and like he's happy the whole time, he's more likely to approve things. And then he's happy, we're happy, and we all get to go home a little earlier. And so he walks out of the room and we all do that giant sigh of relief.
Yeah.
We go, okay, he's not back until 11 tomorrow. Okay. If he's grumpy on the 5th thing he looks at, he's more likely to reject it. So to save ourselves time and to save the VFX house some time, let's make sure this runs as smoothly as possible. And then, hopefully we live to fight another day.
Well, you just spoke about, we get to go home early. So I want to ask, how do you kind of manage that stress of the cutting room and just managing the team of having like, now we got to work late, or now we had a screening and now it's been a slew of late nights or now we got to work a weekend. Like, how do you personally manage that for yourself and for your team?
So I've worked with editors who, when their part is done, they're out the door. I feel like there are certainly times where like an editor's job is done at this certain moment or whatever. But then there are other gray areas where like the editor's job is done here, but it would really be great if he or she sat in on the QC also, because the editor knows, where all the bodies are buried. Even if like the first knows everything about the show backwards and forwards, knows, what every shot is supposed to, what every comp is supposed to look like, where the sync is supposed to be on this.
I will say that if ever I'm QCing something and the editor is also watching, I have such a sigh of relief.
Because you just know, right? Like, so they're going to catch the stuff that you may not even realize was important to them.
Or like there might be maybe like 5 minutes where, because it's so well, it's hard to kind of like scrutinize it. For the 20th time. I feel like things like end up slipping a little bit, and to know that there's like a second or third or fourth pair of eyes on it, it's like, okay, so if I accidentally like missed something for 5 minutes, like someone else could catch it. Yeah,
so I try to be the kind of editor that stays to QC, not just for the, obviously it helps the assistant and it makes their job easier, but also like I want to make sure everything's good. Like this is a big deal tomorrow. We have this big screening coming up and I want to make sure like that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. And so I want to be there, but I'm still early enough in my editing career that like I still really remember what it was like to be an assistant and to be like, this would have been really helpful. This would have been a great thing if the editor would have just done this, or this would have made my job easier, or I wish they had organized the things in this way. And so I still am in that mindset where I'm just like, as an assistant, what would I really have loved in this moment? And so I try to do those things, because being an assistant or first specifically like is a lot of pressure, because you don't have ownership of the cut, but you're expected to present it perfectly. And so in those moments, I want to support my assistants in whatever way I can.
So then when you were, working on a weekend or maybe in the late hours, do you want your assistants then with you for that time? Or are there times where you're like, you know what, I got this like for the day, and like you don't need to come in on a Saturday, or like I'm like good for the rest of the night, you're okay to go home? Do you kind of do that, or are you like, nope, you got to stay with me?
No, I mean, again, like I assisted recently enough that like I can probably handle most of the things that come up. So the question usually is, do you want to stay late? Do you want the OT, or do you want to go home?
Okay.
And so
you kind of leave it up to your assistants.
Yeah, unless there's a specific thing where like there's some specific thing they've been doing, like that I don't know how they comp this one thing or whatever. Like I need you to stay because I don't know how to do that thing that you do, and I'm going to need you to do it. Like that kind of thing. I'll begrudgingly like ask them to stay, but like usually if there's an option, then I try to give them the option so that they can have the money, or they can go home and be with their family or friends.
Wow. That's great.
So insofar as like a work-life balance thing goes, to sort of extrapolate on the staying late, working weekends kind of thing, and I myself is a father of 2, I'm curious what it looks like from an editor's point of view, how you manage those things, work-life balance, when I go home, if I can, delegate certain tasks to the partner or whatever.
Yeah. Work-life balance has been really tricky for most of my career. It's actually been great the last few years because I work from home. So like I was saying, Robert Zemeckis works in Carpinteria, which is just south of Santa Barbara. And so for the first movie and a half, so Polar Express and Beowulf, I lived up in Santa Barbara. I just got an apartment. And then I got married halfway through Beowulf. And so I started doing the commute. So I would drive from West LA to Carpinteria every day. And then that carried through all the movies.
And just for context, how long about was that drive?
That is an 80-mile drive.
80
each way.
miles. So how long did it take you?
So it would...
How fast could you get there?
So it would take about an hour and 25 minutes
Okay.
each way. And so I did that drive for a long time. So if you imagine, like, let's just say as a first, I got off early at 7, I still wouldn't get home until 8:30. And so when we had our daughter, which was on Mars Needs Moms, like I said, in 2010, and I was a producer, it was great. We were shooting in LA. We actually cut in LA. And I also could leave whenever I wanted. Like I could go home at 6 if I wanted and show up a little late if I needed to. And so it was like, the clouds parted and rays shone down. It's like, you're going to be a producer during this first year and a half of your daughter's life. So that was really, really nice. But I also, aside from that movie, I would go on location. We did Flight partially in Atlanta, The Walk in Montreal. We did Allied in London. We did The Witches in London. So I missed a lot of my daughter's life, because of those things.
Yeah, because it sounds like that you were gone, but they didn't come with you.
Yeah, so they would come visit. My daughter was in kindergarten when I went to Montreal, so she came out for a couple weeks. When I was in London, both times they came out for a couple weeks at a time. But yeah, so I was gone for a lot of it. So both Allied and The Witches, which we did in London, I was gone for 6 months each time.
Oh, wow.
So I spent a year in London, away from my family, and which really was really hard. And when I was in London, people would be like, let's go do this. Let's go eat here. Let's go. And I just thought, I can't be there to take my daughter to school. I can't clean up after the one thing I can do is come back with as much money as I possibly can. And so I would make a spreadsheet with my budget, and I'd be like, okay, I'm only going to eat out once a week, and I'm going to not travel to Brussels and go to Spain on the weekend or whatever. I'm just going to bring home boatloads of money. That's all I can do. So yeah, it was really hard to be away for those movies.
Well, I know because some editors, they'll go to London and they'll be like, oh yeah, so we all moved to London, and then I enrolled my kid into kindergarten in London for that year, and then we moved back, and then I enrolled them in wherever else school they had, and that always fascinated me because it was just this idea of okay, now we're gonna be here for a year, but you're gonna be in this school, but only for a year, and then when we move back, we're gonna put you in something else. It just. It's so crazy to me that happens, and it's very normal. But it also sounds like that you weren't there. What was the longest time you were away?
So 6 months for sure. So there's kind of this tax thing where at 6 months you start getting double taxed. And so we were always told, on both of those movies, get out, count your days, make sure you know exactly how many days you've been in London because you have to get out before 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise, you owe way more money. So the reason we didn't ever bring my daughter and put her in school over there is it just was never long enough to justify it.
And what does your wife do?
She's a VFX artist.
Oh, okay, cool.
So she works at Sony ImageWorks and works on all the Spider-Verse movies and all those.
And so you said now it's easier because you have remote work. How's work-life balance treating you now that you can work from home?
It's been so nice. I mean, when COVID started, we all of a sudden went, from seeing each other maybe at bedtime to 3 meals a day. And it was, and we would just goof off all day and play in the backyard and whatever because there was so much downtime in between, reviews and whatever. There was all these times that we could just do silly stuff. So during COVID was great. And that was just such a weird time for the world, but also to teach kids how to do Zoom school, just going through middle school and then now as a freshman in high school. It's been great. The work-life balance has been off the charts since COVID.
Is that something that you are asking for when you're signing on to projects, the ability to work from home? Or is it something that's sort of an accepted or given?
No, it's definitely not given. Most of the shows have been some kind of hybrid, but there was one show that did not offer any kind of work from home, and so I was able to work using my own system. So it was really nice to have that. I do ask for some kind of work from home system because I do think it's really valuable, and I think it's actually more valuable to the company than it is to the worker because we all do extra work because of it. But I also do it just kind of as a bargaining chip. It's something I can give up if they don't want to do it, but I can trade it for a higher salary or something like that. So so I ask for it even though I don't necessarily have to have it.
Do you have an agent?
I do have an agent. I have two agents. I have
you have two agents. I do. You fancy. Tell us the process. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, when I was on the Zemeckis movies, I thought, wow, this is cool. I don't think I'll ever need an agent. Like, I'll just keep working on Zemeckis movies and I don't have to worry about it. That didn't happen. And so I had just gotten The Brother's Son. The DP, like I said, I had worked with on Marwen and then also on Lost Ollie and then also on The Brother's Son. He said, hey, you should talk to my agent. And I said, okay, great. And then, as soon as whatever that text went through or like that call ended, I was like, well, I don't want to just have this one agent to talk to. I want to talk to a bunch of agents because I want to choose. So I immediately reached out to everyone that I knew to ask, like, who's your agent? Do you recommend them? Do you think they might be looking for clients? But I also mostly reached out to post executives. I reached out to the Netflix people that I had worked with. I reached to the studio people because I said, who are the agents you like working with? Like, who do you like negotiating with? Like,
that's smart.
That is smart.
And so they said, oh, talk to this person at Gersh. Don't talk to this person. Oh, this person would be really good for you. And so I got I had a list of 6 agents.
Wow.
That I set up meetings with. And so I went and met with someone at CAA. I met with, I did a few phone interviews, a couple of Zoom interviews. And then the agent I chose, there's a line producer that I had worked with since Polar Express. And he was like, this is my agent. He represents all the biggest editors in Hollywood. He'd be really great for you. Like, you should talk to him. And so when it came down to it, because I liked him and another agent, I thought, well, because this kind of mentor-y line producer that I've worked with for 20 years is saying, I'm going to hand you my agent, like, you should talk to him, I really felt like I should give that agent a shot, especially since he does represent the biggest editors in town. So I signed with him. The reason I have two agents is because at the same time, one of the other editors on The Brother's Son, he said, oh, you should talk to my agent at the same agency. And so I was like, oh no, now what do I do? Like, I'm being referred to 2 different agents at the same agency. And when I got on the call, they were both on the call. Oh. They were like, oh, like, we heard Mark said you might work well with me, but Jay does features and I do TVP, so we're just going to both represent you.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay, cool. Great. Like, let's just do that. And so it's been a nice relationship.
So now does one, like, if you're on a feature, does that one take the 10%? And if you're on TV, the other one takes the 10%? Or
I think when they explained it, they said the agency gets the 10%. So it doesn't really matter, like, which one of them does.
So you're also not paying like 20%.
No. It's for sure.
It's 10% for what the normal.
It's my normal
amount
rate, but I can talk to 2 different agents.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's been great. But like, I was always told before this happened, like, don't expect them to get you work, especially when you're starting out. Like, you're such a small fish in their pond. You still got to pound the pavement. You still got to find your own things. Like, don't sit back. And so I haven't. Like, so they have never actually gotten me a job. Like, they've negotiated my rate, but they've never gotten me a job. And so
I hear so many stories that are like that.
Yeah. And so, like, I just act as if I don't have an agent. And then when it's time to make the deal, then I let them do their thing, because sometimes they don't return emails. It happens. But man, when I sent the email saying, so I just got a call from the Zemeckis producer and they want to hire me on this project that starts on Monday. Ring, like the phone, like before I hit send, like the phone rang, and then they made my deal, and it was a great deal. So I have nothing but good things to say.
Have they brought anything to you?
They've brought a few things. Like they'll say like, oh, this thing is asking you about your availability, and I've learned that really doesn't mean anything. Like it does, of course, it totally means something in a way. What it means is, because if you imagine like the order of events that has to happen, they're not going to ask a director to choose from a list of editors and then say, okay, great, now let me find out if they're available. They're going to have a list. They're going to find out which of the 20 are available, and then they're going to hand that list to the director. So when they're asking if you're available, you haven't even gotten to the director yet.
Yeah. Right.
And maybe you're the one of the 20 that they choose, but you're probably not going to get a call. It just means they want to know if they can put your name in front of the director.
I got it. That's also interesting because it's the opposite for when we're not going through an agency, right? Like usually someone asks if you're available because they want to interview you and they want to meet you face to face. But agency sounds like it's the other way around.
But I think at the assistant level, like you don't want to, I just think like they're not as worried about the editor going, I like this guy. And then they find out, oh, sorry, he's not available. But with the director level, they really don't want to get egg on their face by saying, oh, you know, that guy you chose, he's not available. Like, I think when you get to that level, they want to like have a silver platter. Like, these 5 people are available.
Right,
Which one do you want so we can seal the deal? Like, I just think it's different at that level.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can you go to your agents and say, I want to try doing something like this, or I want to target this director? Can you like set up a meeting kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, my timing wasn't great when I signed with my agents. I signed with them in late 2022, I think. And early 2023 was when the strike happened. The first of the strikes happened. And so I feel like my ability to request anything of them is so like low on their list. Like, I just don't think that would happen. Like, maybe in another time, like, or if I've grown in stature, that could definitely happen. But yeah, for now, it's, you know, I'm just out there getting my own jobs and hoping that they can make a good deal for me.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have someone in your corner too.
Yeah. And just having an agent, just like having that on your resume that you are established enough or whatever enough to earn an agent is helpful. Like, people want to know, like, oh, do you have an agent? Like, it's almost like, have you gotten to that level where someone would actually sign you on? And then that opens a door. It doesn't open the door, but for sure it helps.
All right. I think we should move on to our splice and spew.
Splice and spew.
Splice and spew.
Let's have Ryan go first.
So my spew is about YouTube. It's probably a little different than a different take, but I think YouTube is great. I think, like, I watch YouTube all the time. Like, you know, it's a great dishwashing thing, like while I'm doing dishes or doing laundry, like, and it's this vast repository of like everything. Like, it's anything you can think of, like any nostalgic thing you want to look up that you remember from your youth, it's probably there. Or if you want to see a live video of a, you know, band that you like, it's probably there. So, I mean, it's great. But I think like YouTube is encroaching on movie watching and encroaching on TV watching in a big way. Like it is by far the largest streaming service. Like, it doesn't have the subscriber numbers of Netflix, but free users, like, it dwarfs everything. And so there's just something about movie making, and it goes back to what I talked about earlier. Like, I've loved watching movies since I was a kid, and it's this beautiful art form where, like, it's the perfect length. Like, a TV series sometimes never ends, or it might be 5 seasons to get to that big cathartic moment. And TV is great, and it's a great character study. But like a movie, you can start a movie right now and know nothing about it and know nothing about the characters or the plot. And 2 hours later, you're crying. To be able to do that it takes that time that we know of months of honing and decisions and hand-wringing. And there's something about taking that and being up against things that are made where, like, creators are doing 3 videos a week, or they're making videos up impromptu, or they're making up songs on the spot and having that be our entertainment. Like, there is a place for that, but
it's okay. You can hate it. You can hate it, Ryan. You can just say it sucks.
No. But my problem is that, like, when I watch a YouTube video, I know that I should be watching something more highbrow or something that's going to educate me more in, you know, as someone who works in movies. But like, when our kids do it, they don't know that. They don't know there's that option. Movies are becoming not a thing anymore. So it's kind of on us. Like, if I watch a YouTube video instead of watching a great movie, that's on me. Like,
wow.
I own that, and it's me making that choice. But if my kid learns that YouTube is the thing to go to when you want to watch something for 2 hours, that's also on me. So I feel like we, as filmmakers, but also as people who love movies, need to teach the next generation to watch movies. Because how horrible would it be if, when magazines were introduced, books went away? Like, what if people said, "Oh, this is great. It's bigger. Like, it's 8.5 by 11, and it's got big pictures. What do we need books for? Why do we have these bookstores?" And if books went away, or most books went away because of it, that would be tragic. So I feel like movie going is slipping away, and I feel like every time we plop our kids down in front of YouTube, we're reinforcing that. And I think that we, at like our generation or our generations, need to teach our kids the good thing by watching more movies.
I will take up this task with you. Do you want to go next?
I can go. Did you know that professional pillow fighting is a thing? I was at a bar and it was on, and these guys, I mean, they literally have pillows. And if you can imagine a pillow, and on the end of it is a handle. and they just go around and they whack each in a boxing ring. And literally on the mat, it's like PFC, like pillow fighting championship. And so they go around the ring, they like hit each other. They're like parrying and like trying to figure out. And then they would do like a whole like turn and a little like do kind of like not a spin kick, but they'll like spin and then try and whack the person in the face. You got a whole crowd around them. And I'm just like, how do you start being like, you know what? I am going to be a professional pillow fighting champion. I'd be like, I guess I got to start at sleepovers. And then be like, I wonder if you just go around to people and be like, so how many sleepovers have you been to practicing your pillow fighting? I've been to about 20. We practice all the time.
I feel like the handle is kind of cheating though, right? I mean, like, isn't that the like part of the difficulty? Is
that's what I was thinking too. I feel like you should be able. You should.
It feels like training wheels, like for
yeah. I feel like you should have to hold it with at maybe two hands. Maybe two hands has to be the way that you do it.
So when's your first match, Leanne?
I don't know. I still got some training to do.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been great if Leanne just lifted up these 4 pillars.
Right now. It's right now, guys. Yeah.
We're starting a new segment where it's just obscure sport that we try with each other.
So interesting.
Have you heard? Sorry, this is. You know what? I will talk about this as my spew. Off of this, I'm doing an impromptu spew because there's this documentary and then a subsequent podcast episode from one of my favorite podcasts. The documentary is called Ticklish, and it's about this person who is the purveyor of this competitive tickling competition.
I feel like I have heard of this.
And it's actually like the documentary is really fascinating and kind of has this like dark turn like in the third act where you're like, whoa, like, okay, wasn't expecting that. And you're like, oh, from the tickling thing? Like, okay, weird. But also like, I don't know if I can talk about this for a minute, but essentially like my pitch is find the documentary Ticklish and then subsequently, it's the same story, but there's a podcast called The Dollop, and essentially it's 2 comedians. And what they do is one of them will pick a story from history or an obscure thing in pop culture, and he will read the story to the other comedian who will do improv and talk about it. And it's hysterical. It's a great podcast. But they do an episode about the same person who created this tickling competition. And they find people on like Facebook and Craigslist and all this stuff. And they're like, I think you have to be male and you have to be like fit.
Oh God.
They like want like a certain kind of person to just do endurance tickling.
Creepy.
If you think it's creepy, just watch the doc. It's really fascinating. Hi, this is Zach recording after the fact. For anybody who is yelling at me that I got it wrong, the name of the documentary is not called Ticklish. It is in fact called Tickled. So go find Tickled.
Hi, Cassidy.
Since Michael isn't here, he usually, I think, does something about Pokemon or video games or something. So I am going to give a quick video game recommendation. I grew up with turn-based Japanese role-playing games, and this game just came out from a French studio called Sandfall, called Claire Obscure Expedition 33. It is highly influenced by those old games like the late 90s, early 2000s Final Fantasies. It's as if they made one of those games from 25 years ago with modern technology. It's like one of the highest rated games of that genre right now. I highly recommend it. It was made by a team of 30 people in France who used to work for Ubisoft, and I am enjoying it incredibly. It's like if Paper Mario was made with like a budget of like, however, it looks like a Lord of the Rings or something. I highly recommend. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Sips and Clips. You keep on sipping and we'll keep on clipping. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Sips and Clips is a podcast produced by Leanne McFalls and Michael Schusterman. Graphic by Max Schulman. Sound mixing by Cassidy Legan. Sound editing by Zach Griffin. Follow us on Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.